Hi y'all. So I'm gonna show you a script that has become very useful for me. It's featured in generic behavior, not generic behavior, but generic behavior kind of acts like it. But forget generic behavior. Generic behavior, we're not using it. It's just I was only using it for a demo. It's almost as if I downloaded a plugin that I know how to use that you have available if you wanted to study it a little bit. But you can do your own code, especially for the item that we're going to do this week. You have done your, at this point, you have done your NPC, and now your NPC has to be able to interact with the world. So there are some actions that some things do, like if things get destroyed or things um, duplicate each other or launch projectiles or etc. Those can be triggered by events, and what we're trying to do is uh, create a script that you can maybe give some functionality to, so that it enacts something. Uh, Unity has an event system that works fairly well with it, and the way that it goes about it is by creating these little like tabs that if you call a function, a function without any parameters, basically just a function that you put in a script. It'll do it via the hooks that Unity knows how to do. Anyway, this will be a very short introduction, and I'll show you how to do it. So first, um, here's the here's a game object, just a regular game object. I'm going to um, again, generic behavior has this little stick figure. It's like a maquette. I just started like that. It doesn't nothing to do with generic behavior in um, programming right now. So I'm just wanting to show this and stick figure. Here we go. Stick figure is right there. It started at 0, 0, 0 or 0, 25. Here we go. Let's zoom in on this one. Let's give this stick figure a new script. Take off the generic behavior. You'll see how it doesn't, well, we can leave it there, but we don't need to use it. It isn't doing anything right now. It's empty. See, it's got no events, got nothing. And by the way, this event list is not only working with generic behavior. We're going to do it with another script that we're going to create. In fact, I'm going to do two of these stick figures. One of them is going to be stick figure A, and stick figure B. And stick figure B is going to have no generic behavior. We're going to remove that component altogether. Okay? We're going to have just a cube right there, just floating in the middle of space. And this one we're going to give it a, we're going to create a new script. We're going to call it event caller, just to try out how to call events. Whoa, the lights go out here. That was spooky. All right, maybe they'll come back on. So create an add. We have this event caller right here. As you'll see, it's just a mono behavior. Let me turn on the lights. We have just a mono behavior, and on top of this, we're going to create a class. This class is going to be very simple. It's just going to be one class that we're going to give it access to in Unity. We do that by putting the tags here and hold on a second so I can see a little bit better. System.serializable. That lets Unity have access to it when we show it on the inspector, which we're going to use. We're going to need to use that. So we're going to make a public class, and we're going to call it, let's see, event do. Okay, that's do it like do event. The do event class. and we're gonna say, do we want the event done? So to do the event, if we want to turn it on or turn it off, or so let's say yes. Do the do event. I'm going to set that to because we want to start it generally as in it's going to work. Public, let's see, we want to check to see if it's done. Okay, done event equals false, because if it starts as it's not done. We're going to do, let's see, well, it's going to happen one time, so let's do, oh, that's basically all we need. I'm going to call it, we're going to do, this is where the magic happens here, right here. Unity event, okay? And we're going to call it the what event. Now, I'm going to set that to null because it's going to start empty. And we have to add up here Unity, what was it? Engine dot events. Yeah, this will allow us to use Unity's event system. It's pretty much all we need to do for now. We need to create a constructor, which is what says that this class is a regular. It'll call how to set it up initially. It needs to have those things. So we go public, the name of the class. That's how you write a constructor. And in it, we're going to make the default, these event values here. I'm going to copy those right over here. Okay, that's about it. Very simple. Okay? Now, this is how it works. Here, we're going to create one of those do events. Okay? So, we're going to call a public do event class event to do. That's it. And on update, if we say we press the button, we're going to make an event happen via this system. So let's say let's say just spacebar. If input, you've done this before, get key down. Key down, key code, space. Okay, when space, we're just going to call that event to do. And the way that we do it is we call the event to do dot, and this is what event, which is the Unity event that we need, and we just call it invoke. And that'll just call it. It'll do what it is. Now, you can't use any variables or anything. It's just do that thing over there. Okay? So, here's how we do this on stick figure B. Have it here. And we have stick figure A up here. Okay? So for stick figure B, we're going to create another script. And this script, all it's going to do is going to move me forward one time. That's all that function does. You'll see. So new script, move me once. Okay, that's all that script does. You'll see we're going to, here, we're going to call a function. It's going to be a public, it's got to be a public function, void move me forward. No parameters. Okay? And I think we can use a parameter, but it's got to be a string. But right now, one without without anything. So we're going to say transform dot translate. Now this will go through walls because it doesn't have a rigid body, but that's just to prove concept. New vector 3, so we can call it from right there. Forward, which would be 0, 0, 1. Whatever its forward is. Just to prove that we can do it, we're going to do another input dot get key down key code. And this one, just so that we know that it's a different one, I'm just going to say A. We press, no, let's say W, because W makes it move forward, right? Usually in most games. So we're going to say the same code that we have here. Now, if I were to call move me forward, actually, you know what? Why don't we just call move me forward? There, I press W, it's going to call that. If another object outside of here, outside of this class, calls move me forward, it'll do the same thing. Let's test it first, okay? So we don't have to set it up. We'll see how the event looks like. It'll look like this. See, there's an event. It's a list. It's empty. We haven't added an event just yet, so we're not touching that just yet. We're just going to test the this game object moving forward. So let's save the scene. Scene test. Okay. Now we're going to play. Saved. I'm going to play. Press W. And move forward. It did the move forward function. Okay, great. Now, here, remember, if I press space, it'll call that. So let's go to the event caller. I want to make sure that it's not empty, so I have to do a test here. If event to do equals null, it means it doesn't have, well, I did create one, so we do have one. I'm not going to have nothing. So it would be event to do dot what event? Yeah, that one. If it's empty, if it's not equal to null, in other words, if it's not empty, if it has been defined, then do it. If it hasn't been defined, don't do it. If it's not null, meaning if it is defined, do it. So let's save it, test it. I'm going to press the space button. Nothing's happening, no bugs, no issues, right? So now we're going to hook up the event. Actually, you know what? To show you, this is the one with generic behavior. On generic behavior, I'm going to make one that's called move forward. It's just going to work the same way. On an input, press. On an input down. On keyboard, on W. It's going to do game action motion. It's going to do, nope, it's just going to be translation, and it's going to be on the forward. It's going to be 1, and the amount is going to be 1. That's the vector, and that's the amount. So I'm going to press the button. And see, for both of those should move when I press W. They both move the same amount. So one's working with generic behavior, the other one's working with its own code that we just did, right? So now this cube is going to call, when I press space, it's going to do something here. So first we have to select for that event, that game object, which let's see, which game object to call which function. So let's do first without generic behavior. We drag this here, we select here, also select object. We select the object that we want to use, which is stick figure B. Okay, that's good. Now we look at the functions that we have access to. We have move me once. You see how move me once is that script that we have or that we just made? And now we're going to look here for move me forward. And we click it, and it has no parameters, so it's fine. It doesn't check for anything to work on. But remember, it gets triggered when I press the space bar. So now I'm going to press play, save it, press play. And now I'm going to press space, and it moved. See, what happened was that the cube made a Unity event that called the function move me once from the script that was attached to that game object. So look at the I'm going to post these scripts right there on an announcement, and maybe it'll work for you to see what the scripts are, like in the code base like FSO does. But anyway, now I'm going to call, I'm going to duplicate this cube. Okay, and I'm going to put it under here. And this one I'm going to change the material so we can see. Here. Red. Okay. So now I'm going to select stick figure A on this one here. I'm going to select it, stick figure A. And I'm going to, it looks through all the different scripts that it has attached. And one of them is going to be generic behavior. Generic behavior has a call event. And you can pass in a string. And you have to write which string you're going to call. So generic behavior has this one called move forward. That's a event that generic behavior has defined over here. So now I go over here and I paste move forward. And when's it going to get called? When I press space. Because this one works on space, this one also works on space. But this one moves this one here, and the white one moves this one here, and this one moves that red one, the one in front right here. This white one's for B, yes, and red one is for A. So I'm going to save, press space, that one worked, and this one had generic behavior move forward for stick figure A, and now we're checking to see why we might not want to use generic behavior. Okay, now I don't, well, now you see why. It doesn't work all the time. Gee, it is working on the other script that I have over here on the Dazzle experiment, or Dazzle, but wouldn't know why frankly, it's better not to find out, just to keep this video kind of short. Moving forward, stick figure. Now I want to find out. I'll probably find out as soon as I finish this video. But also now this one's not working when I press W because I changed it to that, I guess. Put down. Well, anyway, I'm gonna post these up on the announcement, so you can copy them and see what you will. Oh, by the way, one of the things that we want to do here is say only if it's not done. So we can create functions to change it to done, not done, to change how it works, and by doing the following. Only call it if done event, if not done event. If it hasn't been done, but right now nothing's changing it to that. We always put parentheses over everything or curly braces over everything. And we say if it's done, once it's done, event to do dot done event is equal to true. And I'll only get it done once. That means that you can't continue to call the trigger if you wanted that to be the behavior that you wanted. So now it doesn't continue to work. The way you make it happen multiple times, if you want to do that, is say public bool do once equals false. That means that you can have multiple events, one that happens multiple times. Do once. And now we check to see not a done event, but not done event, and actually here, do if event to do dot do once is equal to true. This here, this sign, it means if it's equal to false. So, or if it's not. So not false is equal to true, so false. If false, do that. Only set it to true if do once is set to true. And see how, since this one's do once, now we turn it on, back here, press it once, and it doesn't work anymore because now true is done here. Okay, this will be posted. I hope that it's useful to you. Remember that you can use those functions. You can create one to instantiate something, turn something, rotate something, and it'll work according to that. So I hope you had this makes sense to you. I'll see you soon. All right, take care.